TVA and Peacock every Monday and Wednesday during primetime with Made in the Marianas. A captivating night of shows and programs, all made in our region. From local lifestyle features to KUAM news and sports specials, Made in the Marianas entertains, inspires, and shares the best in our community. Brought to you every Monday and Wednesday by Docomo Pacific, Tomorrow's Islands Today, and Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
KUAM News headlines are presented by Calvo's Insurance, protecting Micronesia for 85 years. Matson and the Adai Itano program. Apply at matson.com and McDonald's of Guam. I'm loving it.
Ahead on KUAM News Primetime.
While all eyes were on the exciting bid for Adelup, a quieter race was taking shape on Super Saturday for Guam's pick for Congress. I'm Mitsuki Hirayama with a look at the Congressional race and the candidates now gearing up for November 3rd.
A new audit shows the Guam Memorial Hospital is making financial progress, but a nearly $295 million deficit and ongoing operational challenges reveal their recovery is far from complete. I'm Nevaeh Anderson with the details coming up.
And the Guam Election Commission performed masterfully in counting this past weekend's election, but was it all purely due to low voter turnout? We'll bring you that story next. Hafa and good evening, Guam. Welcome to KUAM News Primetime. I'm Jason Salas. Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Here's your top stories. And we start with politics because another key race to watch this November will be the fight to represent our island in the nation's capital. As federal decisions continue to impact the island in real time, voters will be keeping their eyes on the congressional candidates in the next 3 months leading up to the general election. Matsuki Hirayama reports on those candidates now gearing up to face off in November.
While most of the attention on primary election night was on the huge upset in a gubernatorial race for Adelup, a quieter race was taking place for a seat in Congress. Incumbent James Moylan won the primary against challenger Mary Camacho Torres in the congressional race, according to unofficial results from the Guam Election Commission. Moylan received 4,928 Republican votes, winning by a significant margin of 20.3% over his opponent. Torres received 3,258 votes, or 39.7% of the votes under the same ticket.
I feel very humble and extremely grateful to our community that voted in confidence to want me back strongly, with that 60% of the voters making for the win for us. So that took a lot from make sure our team was together, make sure the people of Guam agreed with my job in Congress. But at the same time, I want to congratulate my opponent, Senator Torres here, for a well-fought campaign. And I'm sure her team put in a lot of effort, and so did she too.
The sitting delegate will now go head-to-head with Democratic pick Alicia Lim Tiaco in the November 3 general election. Candidate Lim Tiaco ran uncontested under the Democratic ticket and received 9,876 votes. She thanks all those who participated in the democratic process and everyone who believed in her.
Your trust is the greatest honor that I could be given, and I do accept it with the utmost humility, gratitude, and with a renewed commitment to the people of Guam and to ensuring that I advocate for and fight for our priorities. I am very excited. I look forward to continuing to remain grounded with our community, to continue our outreach, to listen.
Lim Tiaco brings her experience as the first woman elected as Guam's Attorney General and the first woman appointed as U.S. Attorney for Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. Meanwhile, it was Delegate Moylan's first primary win against a Republican challenger who, despite a hard-fought campaign, was unable to unseat him. In her concession statement, Torres thanks her supporters and volunteers while congratulating the incumbent. She adds, quote, "My commitment to Guam did not begin with this campaign, and it will not end tonight. night. I will continue standing up for our families, speaking honestly about the challenges we face, and working to move our island forward. Meantime, the candidates moving forward are now gearing up for the busy campaign ahead. Moylan says now is the time for the GOP to come together to bring a Republican back in Congress.
I think our team has done an excellent job with our constituents here on Guam, from passport issues to Social Security issues to veterans issues, which is really the majority of our constituent base that needs help. And we want to continue that to assist and put this out. So I'm looking forward to November's general election. I'm looking forward to face my opponent, and I'm sure we'll, at the end of the day, we both want what's good for Guam. We'll shake hands, and then we'll get right back to serving our island.
Lim Tiaco keeping her eye on similar concerns from constituents while hoping Guam flips their pick to Congress Blue.
I want to continue to use these experiences, my background, my training, to address the various issues and critical concerns that our community have shared with me. And whether we are talking about, again, ensuring fairness, right, with our community under federal law, whether it is supplemental security income, whether it's ensuring that our veterans receive quality and accessible health care, whether we have our survivors in Guam receive the compensation they so deserve under RICA. These are examples of fairness under federal law that our community is entitled to. There we must be a true partner, and any investments made in terms of this buildup and realignment need to be true investments in our community. And that includes our infrastructure in all sectors.
Moylan is seeking a third term while Lim Tiaco is a newcomer making her first bid for Congress. Matsuki Hirayama, KUAM News.
Here's another perspective on the election, as many of you throughout our villages may still be on an election sugar high, enjoying what was, by all accounts, an election that was a win for the community. And in terms of the performance of the agency tasked with managing the ballot process, we now give you a look into what allowed your votes to be counted so rapidly.
An important side story from Super Saturday was the speed at which the vote results were generated. The Guam Election Commission can claim an all-time fastest record of completing tonight's unofficial results at 1:57 a.m. Sunday, making this not your father's election, which tended to see ballots tabulation go well past the sun coming up the next day.
I remember in 2018 when I first ran during the primary, which was a four-way race, and it was very nerve-wracking, and we stayed here till like 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning, and that's what we'll have to do, and that's the nature of the politics. It's unfortunate that there's, delays, but that happens, and so people are very patient and anxiously waiting for the results.
So the very obvious question for why ballots were tabulated so quickly becomes, why? There are several contributing factors that led to the rapid pace, in fact. Foremost is apparent low voter turnout, with the GEC indicating that of Guam's more than 57,000 registered voters, less than 23,000 ballots were cast. Other reasons, as Commissioner Betty Pinala told KUAM News, was modernizing the process itself to be more streamlined. GEC Executive Director Maria Pangilinan indicated more comprehensive training for precinct officials and volunteers meant more knowledge of procedure and an ability to resolve discrepancies better. But while Republicans and Democrats tend not to agree, the reduced level of participation is a sticking point that deeply concerns both parties.
I think that a lot of people thought, well, it's the primary, other people are going to come out and vote. I think that's part of it. But it's really hard to get the 18 to 30-year-olds to come out and vote. I mean, they're very engaged online, but getting them to turn that into actually turning around and going into the voting booth, that's the big challenge. And whichever party can capitalize on or figure that out, how to get them to the voting booth, is going to do better.
Well, I saw a lot of people out today, and I thought it was impressive to see all of the camps. But I guess now we're seeing it's just not enough.
And a general apathy by younger voters could have led to a smaller turnout too. Add to this that registered voters could have sidestepped the primary altogether and will only vote in the general.
That it should tell us as a community, when we think of elections, they're important, but we got to be just as diligent to the to the reality that, a lot of people said, well, maybe I didn't vote in the last primary, last general, but we're not, we just got to make sure that we spend more time now. We have 90 days to correct this and course correct it, and the turnout can be bigger. And I think that everyone that's watching right now or hears my voice, I'm hoping that we all get together and make that work.
I think that it's alarming for everybody, and we've got to figure out exactly how to motivate them, get them to the polls, and let their voices be heard beyond just the keyboard.
Someone who knows a thing or two as a veteran politician about pulling all-nighters is Governor Leon Guerrero, who emphasized the privilege of participating in democracy.
It was pretty slow, I think. And yes, I think we're looking at a low voter turnout this primary.
For this year.
But, this is a primary, and of course, general elections will come. But I just feel like we need to really encourage and support and get everybody to come out and vote, register and come out and vote. It's our really very most sacred trust that we have for democracy, and to show again our opinion and express our opinion and who we want to run this island. Very, very important for the destiny of our people. And people need to take that very seriously and be involved, be part of the voice and be part of the solution.
But pending verification of the results by the GEC, the election was a success in getting the community the race results without staying up late. And a key theme heading into November's general election is that more of the electorate is needed.
We're a little disappointed with the overall turnout of the election. It's trending. It's only 30% voter turnout from registered voters, but clearly people came out to vote Democrat, and that's a good thing.
Moving on in our rundown, the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority is showing signs of financial improvement, but a new audit makes clear the hospital still has a long road ahead. Our Nevaeh Anderson reports that while auditors gave the agency a clean opinion on its financial statements, the audit also highlights ongoing financial pressures and operational challenges.
The Guam Memorial Hospital's latest financial audit paints a picture of progress, but not a complete turnaround. Independent auditors Ernst & Young issued the hospital a clean opinion, meaning its fiscal year 2025 financial statements were fairly presented. At the same time, auditors identified one significant compliance deficiency involving approximately $91,000 in federal COVID-19 recovery funds because required documentation wasn't completed during one procurement process. Financially, GMHA improved its overall position by $13.8 million compared to the previous year. Hospital officials attribute that improvement to increased support from the government of Guam, amounting to $22.6 million, additional federal funding totaling $10.1 million, and lower operating expenses through decreases in pension expense, professional support services, and administrative support, coming out to $11 million. The hospital also reduced its overall liabilities by more than $81 million, largely because of lower pension and retiree healthcare obligations. Despite those gains, GMHA continues to operate with a nearly $295 million negative net position, underscoring the hospital's long-term financial challenges. The report also shows patient collections remain a major hurdle. Although GMHA billed more than $300 million in patient services, collections declined because of Medicaid repayment recoveries, insurance claim denials, and the hospital's legal responsibility to provide care regardless of a patient's ability to pay. On average, GMHA recovers only about 33 cents for every dollar billed to self-pay patients. Looking ahead, hospital leadership says it's focused on strengthening its financial future through improved billing and collections, cybersecurity upgrades following previous network security incidents, continued investments in medical equipment, and pursuing national accreditation to improve patient care and operational standards. The EY audit also recommends improvements in billing practices, expense processing, and employee record keeping as GMH continues working to strengthen its internal operations. Overall, the audit shows a hospital making measurable financial progress while underscoring the significant challenges that remain before GMHA reaches long-term financial stability. Nevaeh Anderson, KUAM News.
We are back in just a moment. Stay tuned, please.
do this. Pack the backpack. Fill the lunchbox. Cover the basics. Start new adventures. Whatever's on the schedule, Kmart has everything you need, all in one stop. Kmart, let's make a great school year.
Don't need a work break, keep the smile on your face. The moments you can't replace, and I'll be around. Whoa. You can count on me. You can count on me for life.
Wherever life takes you, we're always here for you. Calvo's Insurance. Count on us for life.
You're watching KUAM, Hafa and welcome back to Primetime, everybody. Once again, I'm Jason Salas. Education news for you now as all of Guam's charter schools are gearing up their educators in preparation for the first day of school, which is just around the corner. Don Sulat has this story.
The island's 7 charter schools look to be on track to starting the 2026 to 2027 school year on time. KUAM asking Chairwoman for the Guam Charter School Council, Evangeline Marie Cepeda, if the plan is to mirror the Guam Department of Education start date of August 10th. Cepeda is saying that not all charter schools will start on August 10th, but will start around that time frame.
We are on time, and all the 7 charter schools will start on time as planned. And the requirement of the 180 days, calendar school days, we are in the process of that. Everything's going smoothly, and all the 7 charter schools are present today.
To prepare their educators and their school leadership for the upcoming 2026 to 2027 school year, the Guam Charter School Council is hosting a 2-day professional development workshop, with the first day being today. The workshop will focus on AI and how to properly introduce it to students depending on their grade level.
Today is about the laws and the positive things, AI, what grade to start, what is, the things that is important to be careful for with AI, because it's great, but everything AI is scary, right? And so we want to just make sure that things are going well.
The 2-day workshop will also take a look into mental health.
In the afternoon, we're going to have anxiety and depression, something that we all deal with and how to cope with that, and the reality of things.
As for what Guam can expect out of the island's charter schools in the coming school year,
2026, 2027 is, I think, the best you're going to see of the charters since the charter schools first started and became a charter about 14, 15 years ago. This is going to be the best of the 7. All of them are here. All of them are partaking in this. It's the first we've ever done this. So it's something, go home or go big, right? So we're going big.
Reporting for KUAM News, I'm Don Sulet.
In international headlines, the United States has agreed to pause attacks on Iran, President Donald Trump said Saturday, amid what he said were the parameters of a deal that would include the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz.
Tonight, talks between Iran and the US have reportedly begun again for a deal that could end the war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump announcing last night he'd instructed to hold off any attack, in that he wrote, "The perimeters of a deal has been agreed to. I have agreed to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal." The president saying he will order American forces to hold off on massive new strikes against Iran.
There's a deal on Hormuz, and then there will be a deal on the nuclear, or you might call it the denuclearization of Iran.
Hours earlier, US embassies signaled a major escalation was close, recommending Americans consider leaving the region. President Trump called it levels of military terror, strength and power not seen since World War II. But there are mixed messages. On Saturday, Iran hit a vessel near the Strait of Hormuz, setting its engine room on fire. And tonight, Iranian officials again insisting the Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war conditions. Trump's new ceasefire, the culmination of days of strikes by the US against Iran. A flurry of phone calls, including from Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince to President Trump, and urgent negotiations by countries like Qatar, persuading Trump to again hold off an attack.
The back-channel diplomacy worked really hard to convince President Trump to give a chance for diplomacy again.
What's your prediction of how likely it is that this ceasefire sticks?
It's very hard, let's be honest.
But tonight, it's not clear how long President Trump is prepared to wait, writing, "Get to work, everybody, and get it done."
Back here at home, the Guam Department of Revenue and Taxation has released its 17th batch of 2025 individual income tax refunds. The latest disbursement totals just under $4 million, with more than 1,890 payments processed for returns filed on or before April the 20th. Of those, about 1,300 were issued as paper checks, with more than 600 sent through electronic fund transfer. Now, with this latest batch, the government has now paid out more than $127.3 million in 2025 individual tax refunds to date. The agency says returns will continue to be processed in the order they were received, adding that due to the high volume of filings, taxpayers should expect a turnaround time of 8 to 10 weeks. Also, the Guam Economic Development Authority is making $285,000 available to support community projects across Guam. GITA has launched Series 9 of its Qualifying Certificate Community Contribution Grant Program, providing funding to all 19 village mayor's offices. Each mayor's office may apply for up to $15,000 to pay for grassroots community initiatives, facility improvements, and operational needs. Eligible projects must fall under one of 5 categories: healthcare, public safety, economic development, higher education, or cultural preservation. The program is fully funded through community contributions from GRMC, and since its inception in 2020, GITA says it's awarded 159 grants totaling more than $2.77 million to nonprofits and government entities across our island. Grant applications are now being accepted by email through GITA. Interested mayor's offices can find more on the agency's website.
Now for a look at your world at home.
I have been saying for years that we have the most gorgeous sunsets in the world, and I stand by that, especially when you have a beautiful sunset over in Pidi at Fish Eye.
Now it pays to spread the Better Together experience. With our brand new referral program, you can earn up to $150 in account credits for every referral you bring in. That's right, family, neighbors, friends, even your coworkers. Just pass them your account name and account number. When they sign up for Docomo Pacific service and drop your info, cha-ching! Credit applied. So spread the word and start stacking those savings. Additional conditions may apply. Docomo Pacific, we're better together.
Taco Bell is so good and so cheap.
I know, right? I wonder why.
What if they know we're broke? What if they're trying to be the good guys?
Yeah. Thanks, Taco Bell!
Tonight's sports feature is brought to you by Cars Plus.
Wesley kicks out. Simon, big three. Oh, baby! Mosley kicks out. Simon, big three. Oh, baby!
Tourism is Guam's #1 industry. It creates jobs and brings in spending. When a visitor comes to Guam, they spend their money on hotels, on transportation, on shopping, on dining out. They're happy they came to Guam. You know who else is happy? The hotel they stayed in, and the bellhop at the hotel, the tour bus drivers and tour guides, the stores they shopped at, and the banks they used, the restaurant and the waitstaff, the supplier who delivered the ingredients, and the farmer who supplied the produce. From real estate to retail, tourism has a positive impact on every industry. When tourists pay taxes, it means locals pay less. Let's make sure our local economy grows so it becomes stronger and more sustainable. Make Guam a better place to live, work, and visit. Support tourism.
When a crispier McCrispy strip is created, only the best sauce will do. Behold, chicken Caesary greatness. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for limited time.
Freedom, that's a cheap thing. Freedom to ignore this, that's a cheap thing. Sacrificing facial hair to nature and involuntary blood donations, cheap things. No one signs up for an 800-pound bear chase. But if it happens, cheap thing. VIP parking, exfoliating, treating gravity like a suggestion, saying, it'll dry. Free-range parenting, forgetting if that's a moose or an elk, all cheap things. Remembering without saying it, couldn't be more of a cheap thing. Sweating your tail off, freezing your tail off, an American saving another American's tail. Cheap things. Making a cheap vehicle for only people with cash like him? Not a cheap thing. Or confusing capability with unaffordability? No, not a cheap thing. Making adventure affordable? Now that's a cheap thing. So we're bringing you more cheap things this year, because cheap things should be everyone's thing.
News Bites is brought to you by Docomo Pacific Better Together, Fresco Clothing, original custom design apparel of Guam and the Marianas.
Okay, everybody, I've been covering the election for the last week. Let's get back to talking about sports, all right? And I got volleyball, I've got golf, and I've got running today. So first, volleyball, my first love, right? Make sure to check us out because the 2026 Oceania Championships are happening over at UOG. We just played American Samoa today. Our men's national team did great job by the boys. Really, really good. Make sure to check it out too because at 6 p.m. Guam takes on the Cook Islands. Now this is the Oceanias, right? So we have New Caledonia, we have Australia, which on the men's side is in the top 5 teams in the world. You are going to see world-class volleyball and we get to support 671, the men and women's teams. Absolutely great. Go Faith Piper. I am a big fan, all right? Go get it done. Big fan. All right, now on the links, everybody. Shall we play some golf? Speaking of UOG, UOG is setting up this wonderful tournament / competition / show off your long game. Whatever it is, it's all good. Get out to the links, bring your collared shirt, have some fun, and make sure that you can show how far you can drive off the range because we will be down at Country Club of the Pacific down in Talafofo on the 30th of August, and we will be driving range. We will be driving off the range, on the range. Like I said, again, I've been covering elections stuff. I'm so excited to be talking about sports. And then Lace Up for Literacy. This is awesome because this is running, but it's also reading, right? Reading, writing, arithmetic, and running, right? There's the 4 R's, not just 3 anymore, right? But check it out, my friends over at Weddingale Elementary School. And when we say run like a deer, because that's exactly what the deerlings, right? Biba bin Nadu, that's what they're doing over at Weddingale Elementary School. They have a 2K or a 5K. They have a run or a walk. But what we're all doing is we're lacing them up for literacy because you get the magic of being able to read and have amazing stories, and you get to help a really, really cool elementary school up in northern Guam. And they have this amazing event with an amazing poster, by the way, all right? Shout out to whoever did that poster, right? That is incredible. So make sure to register and we will see you over there. Birthday shout outs now. I'm so glad sports is back right before the school year starts.
All right, everybody, happy Monday and happy birthday. It's now August, and we hope that you are having an August birthday. If yours is on the 3rd of the 8th month of the year, and Ivy Lee Tori has a birthday today, so happiest of birthdays. Love your familia. Yeah, we always do that when people use that really cool emoji. And also, happiest birthday, Gia baby. We love you so much, and God bless you always, says a very, very proud family who is sending you all of their love. Abe John Guerrero has a best birthday today, so happy birthday to the best husband, dad, and papa. All right, hey, man, hitting for the cycle. We love you so much and hope you have the best day. Can't wait for you to be home to celebrate, and we love you, says your family. Bob Onadera, happy birthday to Bob from the village of Dedido, fellow Northern boy. There you go. Happy birthday, Bob. Cheers to more memories and shared wins. We love you and love your team. Oh, and hang on just a minute, because the Onadera family is partying tonight because Sheila is also celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday to you, and may every moment today remind you how loved and appreciated you are. We are wishing you strength for challenges, joy for all days, and love that surrounds you always. We love you, says your team. Oh yes, Kobe's parents are having a righteous birthday celebration, and Bob and Sheila, we wish the both of you the very, very best. From your son, who has a absolutely infectious laugh, and we know where he gets it from. Want to wish your special someone a happy birthday? Just click the QR code here on your screen or email birthdayclub@kuam.com.
How do I have this much energy after being up all night covering the election? I don't know. But you know what? Someone who does have energy and is really, really focused is my colleague, Matsuka Hirayama. So stay tuned, because on this week's episode of The Interview, Matsuki speaks with environmental attorneys David Henkin and Amy Atwood and Proteji Guajan's Manika Flores as the feds roll back habitat protections in the Endangered Species Act. She hears how it could impact Guam, remains at the center of two major environmental legal battles, one of them before the U.S. Supreme Court. That is coming up right now.
All right, everyone, half a day again, and thank you so much for joining KUAM for this interview regarding the Endangered Species Act rollback and the impacts that it may or may not have regarding environmental protections in Guam, and also Proteji Guajan's ongoing litigation. So first things first, I wanted to ask, with the recent ESA rollback, how does it impact Proteji Guajan's cases against camp laws and or the U.S. Air Force?
Well, I think that will mostly pertain to our active litigation that we have going on, which is very focused on several native endangered species in the area of Camp Laz. We do not expect the rollbacks to directly affect this case, primarily because they're not retroactive. So in our case, we have a situation where the Navy and Marine Corps had agreed to carry out over 100 conservation measures to try to protect what remains of the habitat for the affected species, which were already extremely imperiled as a result of Andersen Air Force Base. Camp Laz actually takes up a lot of areas that were at first set aside as mitigation for Andersen. So we really are down to just a few remaining habitat areas for these species, and many of them, frankly, are going to need to be recovered and reintroduced in order to truly survive from the threat of extinction. But these were promises that they committed to in 2015 and 2017. Our case is about the fact that they have not met those promises. So they have not eradicated one of the biggest threats to these species, which is the brown tree snake, across the landscape. They haven't eradicated ungulates, which is for those who may not know what ungulates are, they're hoofed animals that trample and consume a lot of the native plants that so many of the native species of Guam depend on, and are also a big presence and a big threat across the landscape. So we're really trying to get the court to order them to carry out the promises that they committed to in this case, and we do not expect the rollbacks to directly affect the merits of our arguments or any of the issues in the case.
And for the litigation that is before the U.S. Supreme Court, will this recent rollback affect it at all in that case?
Yeah, the recent rollbacks are a real problem for the people of Guam, but in the context of Pratehi Guahan's current case before the U.S. Supreme Court, that involves a different law, the National Environmental Policy Act. And the issues that are teed up in that case involve the interpretation of the National Environmental Policy Act and a related law that regulates hazardous waste. So yeah, the ESA rollbacks will not have a direct effect on this case. They are nonetheless of great concern.
Right, and both of you kind of answered this a bit, but if you can further expand, so you guys mentioned that the recent rollbacks won't affect the ongoing litigation, but moving forward, what could this mean for like environmental protections or safeguards in general when it comes to the military buildup and the construction projects or other military projects that will be happening?
Yeah, I can take a first crack at that. So, you know, the first thing we need to make clear is that the rollbacks are illegal and are being challenged in court. Earth Justice is working with the Center for Biological Diversity and others to challenge those rollbacks. And so the law hasn't changed. The Trump administration's interpretation of the law has changed, and not surprisingly, it's changed in ways that are very unfriendly to the environment and therefore unfriendly to the people of Guam and the environment that they depend on. So the biggest concern, the biggest impact could be in the way that the agencies themselves view their responsibilities. So one of the big rollbacks has been the Trump administration has reversed decades of understanding that the Endangered Species Act prohibits acts that destroy habitat that then in turn injure and kill endangered species. And that's part of the lived experience of people on Guam. When the brown tree snake was introduced and devastated Guam's environment, when limestone forest and other habitat are destroyed, people in Guam understand that their native species have suffered as a result of that. The Trump administration doesn't get that. They think that unless you directly shoot or directly harm an endangered bird or bat or butterfly or plant, that you haven't done anything to it, that the Endangered Species Act would be worried about. That is nonsense. That's not what the statute was intended to accomplish. Congress understood very well back in 1973 that this type of habitat alteration is precisely what's driving the extinction crisis. So, the Trump administration can't change what the law says. And so we're going to be upholding the law in court. The problem is that, if they take this illegal interpretation, they're not going to be policing themselves as well. So when they engage in review of their actions, if their actions are habitat destroying, they're not going to view like they're doing anything wrong under the ESA. So it's going to lead to a lot more litigation, going to lead to a lot more delays in getting vital species protection. We're confident that the courts are going to find that this is all illegal, but it serves no one's interest if they're concerned in protecting the environment.
GU Self Storage, located in Harmon next to McDonald's, offers a variety of storage units. With rates starting as low as $95 per month, we offer complimentary use of dollies, push carts, Klein's hand trucks, and pallet jack, with a fully covered loading and unloading areas and ADA accessible units. We offer 24-hour CCTV surveillance monitoring, alarm, and individual pin-coded gate and door access, because your safety is our priority. GU Self Storage, voted Pika's Best in 2024. Call 671-648-7867 today.
Only Pizza Hut lets you surround your favorite pizza with greatness. Get a medium one-topping stuffed crust pizza for just $14.99. At that price, it's irresistible. Get yours today, only at Pizza Hut, the island's best.
Want to stay up to date with all the thrilling action happening around Guam? Look no further. Tune into KUAM Weekend Edition for the Weekend Sports Update, your ultimate look at sports happenings on island. We've got you all covered. Don't miss out on the excitement. Catch Weekend Sports Update on KUAM Weekend Edition, brought to you by
I do want to know that I guess their reasoning or their intention of the rollback for the ESA is to spur economic growth, or to, I guess, in a way make it easier for homeowners or home builders or businesses to do construction, but I know that's a huge concern in Guam, especially because of the how much people care about the land, the environment, the water, the sea, especially with the Taragi Beach case. You guys have mentioned in your lawsuit that it poses a threat to the endangered sea turtles there. So I want to ask this question for Manyeka. What does this mean for you as a local advocate here who are living on Guam and are, trying to protect the environment?
Well, first of all, Prateek is extremely grateful for the partnership, support, and the generous and very dedicated hard work from Earth Justice and the Center for Biological Diversity. Military expansion and occupation here has guaranteed an ecological crisis. We're talking about historic injustices that have never been rectified, and they're compounding now. With the continuing buildup, with continuing actions, including open detonation, that make our ecosystem a lot more vulnerable. And the military has already given a lot of exemptions when it comes to protecting species. And so this, of course, is something that we're very concerned about in the advocacy communities here, because 30% of the island is occupied by the military, and maybe even more lands might be taken for the missile defense system. And, as we see the rollback of protections, we're going to see our island become more vulnerable in the climate crisis. We just experienced 2 Category 5 storms in our archipelago. Our islands are not recovered. Our community members are not recovered. And the weakening of these protections harms our ecosystem, which ultimately harms our resilience to these typhoons. It harms the health and safety of our community. And for many generations, the Chamorro people have understood that, the endangered species in our environments are part of who we are. We're not separate from the natural environment, we're a part of it. And so, we have, by extension, we have to fight for the protection of our species, for the protection of habitat. And, specifically for the Camp Laws lawsuit, if we could just go back to that, there are specific species that are impacted. The kingfisher, the fanihi. And, even to think that the Air Force Base is so close to Retidian, the wildlife refuge, right? Another place that was supposed to be set aside for habitat. Now it's going to be part of the surface danger zone for the live fire training range complex. There are already so many attacks on habitat. And then for the lawsuit at Anderson, endangered sea turtles, migratory birds, traditional medicines, a lot of the species will be impacted by the actions of open detonation there. And so any rollbacks of protective laws impact really the security of our island, the genuine security of our island, and whether it's a healthy forest, a healthy ecosystem. Those things impact the health of our water, the health of our soil, the health of our air. I mean, everything. The diversity in our ecosystem. We want to see these species return and thrive in our islands. We would love to see populations of fanihi flying here in Guam like they do in other islands. We would love to see, our people still have access to these traditional medicines, and we need habitat protections. We need the Endangered Species Act to be upheld in order, for these species to thrive for all future generations of Guam.
Right, and I do want to know with this, alongside the ESA rollback, there's also, in a way, competing priorities with the federal government right now, because there's also I know Perte Guahan is tracking this as well, because I did see your public comments on it, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is simultaneously considering a proposal to designate thousands of acres of critical habitat across Guam and the CNMI. But at the same time, the Trump administration is also rolling back protections for the ESA. So how do you guys make sense of this with these 2 competing priorities right now?
If I could take a stab at that, isn't that always the question for any particular species? I mean, it's sort of, we face this consistently where, you know, even starting with the spotted owl and species before that, people would hold up a species and say, well, what about this species? Is it worth saving? What about this species? And every single time, by and large, the courts and the public have agreed that it is important to protect each and every species because they inherently understand that there's a web of life that sustains us all. And another thing I would say is that, you know, there are a few things about the Endangered Species Act that actually set it apart in the world as the world's strongest biodiversity protection law. And even at its, you know, age now, it's stood the test of time. One of those is the ability for groups like NAICS to bring lawsuits, citizen suits. A lot of other countries have biodiversity protection laws that do not allow people to go to court at all. But fundamentally to this discussion, it's the recognition that endangered species fundamentally require ecosystems and habitats to survive. And therefore, if we're going to protect biodiversity, because we understand the link to our own health, then we're going to have to incorporate the protection of habitat as well. And so, you know, this is a, you know, so in some ways a new debate, but in many ways it's a debate that we've had over and over and over again. The only difference here really is that we are in a position where so many of the species are so imperiled that it's not even so much a question of protecting what habitat that remains at this point, although that is something that necessarily has to happen, but actually going in and restoring degraded habitats and making them become, you know, habitats that can sustain these species in the future so that they have a hope of surviving.
Guam's auto appearance specialist, Elegant Reflections, has been providing the automotive industry with professional detailing and car care products at its highest quality, from complete detailing, full interior detailing, exterior detailing, headlamp restoration, hand washing, seat and carpet shampoo, engine degreasing, undercarriage cleaning, paint sealant, fabric protection, paint oxidation removal, and so much more. Visit us at our new location. Call 646-5555 for an appointment. Elegant Reflections, Guam's auto appearance specialist, over 20 years of experience.
Freedom, that's a cheap thing. Freedom to ignore this, that's a cheap thing. Sacrificing facial hair to nature and involuntary blood donations, cheap things. No one signs up for an 800-pound bear chase, but if it happens, cheap thing. VIP parking, exfoliating, treating gravity like a suggestion, saying it'll dry. Free-range parenting, forgetting if that's a moose or an elk, all cheap things. Remembering without saying it couldn't be more of a cheap thing. Swing Americans saving another American's tail. Cheap things. Making a cheap vehicle for only people with cash like him? Not a cheap thing. Or confusing capability with unaffordability? No, not a cheap thing. Making adventure affordable? Now that's a cheap thing. So we're bringing you more cheap things this year, because cheap things should be everyone's thing.
Get the new and improved KUAM News mobile app in the Apple App Store or Google Play for Android, featuring the latest local news, advisories, promotions, giveaways, and more. New apps, same reliable information from Guam's news leader. Search in your favorite app store for KUAM and download today.
In a way, it seems like more and more so Guam is kind of like at the center of that national debate, especially because we have so many critically endangered species on such a small area of land, while we're also at this intersection of this massive military buildup that's happening here. So I really appreciate you guys coming on to talk about this. And just in closing, because I know this is a major thing, especially for the litigation against the Air Force now before the Supreme Court, I wanted to ask Manyeka, maybe perhaps if you can answer this, or even Attorney Henkin, what does it mean for you guys now that this case is being heard before the High Court, right?
Please, David, go first.
Well, you know, this case has always been a really important one for the people of Guam because the Air Force's blowing up of bombs on the beach at Chirage is happening in a very culturally important area and on lands that were stolen from the local families and over the aquifer that provides almost all of the island's drinking water. And so, the lawsuit has always been important because it asks the question how the Air Force, justifies going forward with that course of action when it has never taken a hard look at the impacts on the people of Guam. And equally, and maybe even more importantly, never really bothered to take a serious look at whether there are other ways that it could, take care of these expired munitions that wouldn't pose those existential threats, like sending them off island to get rid of. These are not, this case does not involve the World War II era, munition that might be found out in the public. It involves just the routine stockpile of weapons that are past their best buy date and they need to do something with them. Well, they can ship them in a crate and ship them off island just as much as they put them in a crate and brought them to the island. And they should have looked at that. So, the case has always been important to the people of Guam, but now that it's before the Supreme Court, it's going to affect not only this particular decision by the Air Force, but every decision by every federal agency that is made on the island of Guam. And the people of Guam know how much the federal government affects their day-to-day life. Whether it's the military or other federal agencies, it has a profound effect on the people and the environment of Guam. And what the Air Force is arguing is that anytime a federal agency needs a permit from someone, they don't need to do that examination of, take the look before you leap. What are better ways to do what we need to get done? And most importantly, listening to the voices of people in Guam. So once the Supreme Court rules, if it rules that agencies get a get out of jail free card and don't need to comply with the law just because they need a permit, that's going to affect not just blowing up bombs on Taragi Beach, but everything that happens in Guam and everything that happens by federal agencies across the country. So this deeply, deeply matters. And we're doing everything we can, working with Prateiguahan to make sure that the Supreme Court gets that. We filed our answering brief last week, and then earlier this week, we received a number of friend of the court briefs in support of our position, and we were really honored to get a brief from many of the states that administer the hazardous waste laws, and they say, yeah, this is a really important thing to also comply with the National Environmental Policy Act. We heard from members of Congress. We heard from Blue Ocean Law, which does advocacy on behalf of the people of Guam. This is super, super important. And so the stakes couldn't be higher. And we're going to do everything we can to convince the court to uphold the law and hold this administration to follow the law.
Right. And what's going to be happening moving forward? Are we going to be hearing, for example, like oral arguments soon?
Yeah, the oral arguments are going to be most likely in the fall. The court has not yet let us know the exact date, but we expect to hear from the court within the coming weeks. And given how early the court accepted review of the case, we'd expect the argument to be in October, maybe November. But then as far as the decision, that usually takes many, many months. So the best we can say is sometime between now and next June, the wheels of justice turn slowly.
All right. All right. Thank you both so much. Or Manyeka, if you wanted to add a closing statement.
Yes. So I just to kind of catch you up to where we're at, Prateiguahan sued the Air Force for violating the National Environmental Policy Act. They did not do an analysis on alternatives, safer alternatives for the practice of open detonation, which has no protections for air emissions, like David was saying, no protections for our aquifer. They did not do an environmental and health assessment, and they did not have robust community engagement. And so that lawsuit was actually initially dismissed. And then we won our appeal with Earth Justice in the Ninth Circuit Court, which is historic for the territories to win an appeal like that. And we were moving forward. We were very proud of that, of winning that appeal with Earth Justice, and we were winning. We felt like we were so close. And then the Air Force countersued us. And it's rare that the Supreme Court, they don't accept all the cases that come before them, but they accepted this one. And so it's actually quite terrifying to go in front of the Supreme Court, to be honest. We really hope the community understands the weight of this lawsuit and understands the weight of this moment, because this is going to impact the health and safety of our community, but every other community dealing with the issue of open detonation. And of course, any community that uses NEPA to be, one of the main methods of engaging the federal government on decisions that impact communities everywhere. These are federal projects, that affect the environment and the safety and health of communities. And so we recognize the weight of this moment. And, the Earth Justice, they filed the brief on July 20th stateside, but that was July 21st here in Guam, and that's the liberation holiday, right? Where we commemorate the United States coming and recapturing Guam from Japanese occupation. But the United States carpet bombed our island with thousands of munitions, and a lot of those munitions still exist. We have munitions from the wars that followed, and this lawsuit represents our 5 years of work as well with Earth Justice. We've been dedicated to this issue because we don't want to see the practice of open detonation here to happen. Our island deserves better, and we have to challenge, the Air Force's failure to follow NEPA. They failed the law, and we have to ask why they didn't think the people of Guam and the island of Guam was worthy of them following the law. And so we really hope the Supreme Court rules in our favor. We're going to do everything we can. We've also worked 5 years with Center for Biological Diversity on this other litigation as well. We've exposed a lot of harms that have been done and that our community didn't know about, in both cases, in all these issues. And we remain committed, and we're just so deeply grateful for their support, their partnership, their generosity, and their commitment to our island and to justice for the planet, really, ultimately. So I think that I could leave it there. And I just really want to thank them both so much, because these are massive fights. They take a long time. And unfortunately, they take years. This is taking years of fighting. And it's just an honor to be in the fight with these good people. So yeah, thank you so much.
Well, same way.